Welcome to a presentation about the Exxon Valdez oil spill. What happened? The Exxon Valdez was a ship carrying 50 million gallons of crude oil that struck a reef, which broke its hull and thus causing it to leak 11 million gallons of oil into the Pacific along 1,300 miles of coastline. This is considered as the second worst oil spill in American history, even though it's not that big compared to some of the other oil spills that occurred outside of the U.S. When did this incident happen? Well, it occurred on March 24, 1989. This year marks the 29th anniversary since the spill. Where? The tanker left the Valdez Marine Terminal in southern Alaska and headed southbound for Prince William Sound, also in southern Alaska. But it ventured off course and collided with Bly Island Reef. The map here shows in detail the change in course. Was anyone found responsible? The spill was caused by miscommunications by the people running the ship. It was thought that the captain, Joseph Hazelwood, had been intoxicated, and that's why the ship had failed to avoid colliding with the reef. But charges in relation to that were dropped. He was instead convicted for negligent discharge of oil, so he got a fine and community service. The aftermath and effects. Initial responses by the company were not enough to contain a good amount of the oil, and to add on top of that, a storm came in and blew a lot of the oil further out into the ocean. The marine species were obviously affected, as their habitat had been tainted with the poison. Many species died upon contact with the slick oil. At least 250,000 seabirds, 2,800 sea otters, 250 bald eagles, 300 harbor seals perished, and up to 22 killer whales, as well as billions of salmon and herring eggs. The company spent billions of dollars in the cleanup, in effort to obtain and rehabilitate the animals affected as a result of the oil spill. To this day, the shores remain polluted. There is still oil just beneath the surface of the water. The animals that were found and were still alive were brought into rescue shelters where they were cleaned and nurtured back to health. They could be released as soon as much of the oil had been cleaned. Economic impact on the people. In addition to having to pay billions of dollars for cleanup and saving the animals, they also had to pay $5 billion in punitive damages for the residents near the area. Exxon is a massive oil company, so this wasn't a terrible amount for them. Alaska's fishing industry dropped and had to close due to all of those animals being poisoned. People are still scared of being poisoned to this day, at the strong possibility that there is still poison in the creatures of the part of the shore that crude oil had been spilled into. Fishermen to this day are still finding it hard to make a living in the industry. Many native Alaskans lost their main source of food. The tourism industry also spiraled drastically, so many jobs were lost in that sector until 2003 when it somewhat recovered. 4 people lost their lives in the cleanup efforts. Solutions. One of the ways they tried to contain the spill was by spraying chemical dispersants via airplane. People around the area raked in the oil and contained it for it to be later sucked out, and they also scrubbed the surfaces of things like rocks. Cleanup crews used high-pressure, high-temperature water to wash the oil off of rocky shores. They used cold water to wash over the beaches, since the hot water was killing off the shoreline animals. Why we should care. We should care about oil spills because if we come into contact with the oil directly, it will cause skin irritations. If we inhale the chemical dispersants, it could cause respiratory problems, headaches, and maybe memory loss. If we consume the marine animals that have the poison in them, then we could develop immune system weakness or problems. Oil spills will also negatively affect the economy of the region, specifically via ruining the fishing industry and the tourism industry. It's also heartbreaking to see the animals washed in slick oil like that, so we should be as much help up to them as we can be. Like, why shouldn't we care about animals who are dying and suffering as a result of the careless actions of humans?